I was passing Himitsu's class when I heard a familiar voice coming from inside. It was Catherine. What was she doing there? I hid by the door and listened carefully. Thank God for the thin walls of Japanese schools. It was also quite fortunate that Catherine occupied the desk closest to the door. Even if it wasn't her class. That's the Catherine I knew. The students walking through the hallway gave me weird looks. I didn't mind. It could make things any worse. Now what'd she think? I caught the end of a sentence.
No, I'm just glad you're back.
Are you now?
Well, if you want to search for hidden meanings in my every word, I'll leave you to it.
It didn't really sound like a conversation between old friends. I might have expected that. No, actually, should have expected that. Don't pretend nothing happened.
But nothing did happen, and has been happening for the past year and a half, and even if we were pretending, we were good at it.
Oh, so there was a falling out between these two that Mr. Nikolai wasn't aware of. Himitsu wasn't talking very loudly, but suddenly went silent, gasping for air, as if after a desperate scream.
Why now of all times?
If it was up to me, I would have never returned here.
How convenient for you. You leave when you're most needed, and it's not your fault. You come back when you're not needed at all, and it's not your fault. And how are we to live now? Tell me.
I'd never expected a reaction like this from Himitsu. Well, sure, I'd known for a while that she was no longer the 8-year-old girl I had met when I still didn't know a single word of Japanese. In many ways, she was more mature than me. But to see someone so close to you like that, I guess just wasn't ready. And what should I do? Tell me. Why in the world should I adjust myself to you, to him, to the two of you? For you, life is so simple. Well, it sure is complicated for you. You couldn't even come and say hi, and explain the situation properly, all because of your pride. Pride, you say? Ooh, she got a smirk. Catherine smirked scornfully. More like self-respect. You could use some of yourself, acting like a...
Like what? Come on, tell me, how am I acting?
The way you couldn't? Oh! Oh! Cat fight! It was weird that none of Himitsu's classmates were paying attention to the two of them. This certainly didn't seem like a friendly conversation. If only he knew the whole truth.
Then tell him.
I can't, Catherine said quietly. So quietly I almost couldn't hear her.
So that's how it is. Then what do you intend to do next? You can't just ignore his feelings, can you?
And what about my feelings? Has anyone thought about them? Her feelings? What? But Catherine immediately continued.
I can't stand being near him. Then don't be. Free us from your presence. It'll be easier for everyone.
Don't worry, I will. There's less than a year of school left.
Yes, but for this entire year...
It won't break you, I'm sure.
You're just...
Oh, senpai! One of Himitsu's classmates called out to me. I immediately broke into a run. Nope. Hope the girls didn't notice me. I ran back to my class, almost knocking down 2 students who were too slow to dodge me. I jumped behind my desk and tried to quickly catch my breath. By then, I had completely forgotten about Michael. But what the ever-living hell was that? I can understand Himitsu worrying about me, but about how Catherine's return might have affected me. But her tone, that wording? What about Catherine herself? I can't stand being near him? If only he knew the entire truth? Whatever happened between us, I didn't think anything I'd done or said deserved being treated like this. You alright, Nick? Yes, everything's fine. I blurted out. Kyosuke gave me a somehow sympathetic look and expressly glanced towards Michael, who was peacefully reading a book, paying no attention to his surroundings. Yeah. You know, a lot's happened. I really wanted him to understand. Yeah, but still. And Kyosuke was right. I very slowly stood up and approached Michael. So, nothing worthwhile would come to my head. Sorry I acted like that. It's just that things have been complicated recently. He closed the book and looked at me coldly. I understand. It's alright. No, I really didn't mean any harm. I just snapped. I'm telling you, I understand. Yeah, that was just like Michael. One thing in words and another in thoughts. Whatever. I certainly wasn't in any mood to try and prove anything to him. The bell rang. The lesson had been going for 5 minutes already, but Catherine was yet to return to the classroom. And to top it off, her things had disappeared too. I couldn't tell for sure if they were there when I returned. I just hadn't paid attention. Finally, the school day came to an end. I felt a pressing need to talk to Himitsu, even though I didn't really know what I would say. What could I say? With everything that had happened today, I completely forgot about yesterday's conversation with Ichinose. And he gave me a lead, too. Himitsu, Catherine. What about the note? The call? I had to find out what this was all about, right? This decision seemed like it could seriously change my life from here on. To go to Himitsu, or try to solve the mysteries of my father's past. Damn, homie, that's a big one. I love how he was like, this decision could really affect my future. Like, oh, really? Could it now? Oh, listen, I love Himitsu, I do, but I don't know why I keep trying to, explain it. Like, y'all could probably tell by now I'm kind of locked into Kagome. Ultimately, Himitsu wasn't about to disappear, and I had more important things to do. I don't know how extreme this story is going to get. I just know that in Everlasting Summer, things got a bit heated in certain routes at certain points. Man, I know there's this big conspiracy and all this intrigue, and he's in danger. Like, don't tell me because of the choices just made, or any choices. Don't. I don't want Himitsu to turn up dead, man. I don't know. This seems like this is very, life or death kind of plot line we're following here. Like, well, that's the thing. It's like, they said in the Steam description of the game, there's like each heroine has their own unique route with 3 separate endings, and if it's anything like Everlasting Summer, there's a normal ending, a good ending, and a bad ending. Bad endings typically don't work out too well. They're definitely not things you want to see. So now I'm actually scared. Oh, and there's one for each heroine though. That means, if bad endings are like what they were in Everlasting Summer. Well, specifically one character in particular had a really bad ending. Oh god, Himitsu, no. Whatever, keep going. I left the school and hesitantly stopped at the gates. How many waterfronts did Tokyo have exactly? I didn't even really know. Should have asked Ichinose which one. I mean, you did. He told you that he wasn't going to tell you anymore. Though it seemed like he wasn't sure where to look for this Akira himself. Oh, just wonderful. Go I know not, whither, and fetch I know not what. And then the most obvious idea came to my head. I need to call the information center. I quickly reached the nearest phone booth and dialed the number. Hello, good afternoon. I'm looking for a man called Akira Shinji. I know that he owns a restaurant somewhere on a waterfront. Please wait. A grating female voice sounded out of the receiver. It took at least 5 minutes, as many coins, but finally I got a response. Unfortunately, I could not find anyone by that name. So did Ichinose lie to me? No, that would be too stupid. Are you sure? Yes. Is there anything else I can help you with, sir? What? Had he forgotten the name of a man he had worked with for years? I wasn't ready to believe that. Could you give me a list of restaurants with owners whose surnames are Akira? The sound of rustling pages came from the other end of the line. One restaurant. Could you please spell out the address? I quickly took a notebook with a pen from my school bag and wrote down the name of the street and number of the house. Damn. It was pretty far away. For better or worse, I had nothing else to do today. Ooh, okay. I like the moving background of the train. In reality, I had absolutely no faith in the success of this operation. Going out there half randomly just off the surname alone was a stupid idea. But I didn't want to believe that Ichinose had lied to me. On the other hand, the outskirts of Tokyo are a great location for the restaurant of a former scientist and an affordable one. I was jumbled into a crowded subway car. With every minute, the idea seemed more and more stupid to me, and the sweaty passengers surrounding me made me more and more irritated. Luckily, it didn't take long for most of them to leave the car. The train approached the outskirts of Tokyo almost empty. I left the station and was plunged into a completely different world. It's been a long time since I'd gone so far from home. Here, the neat modern brick buildings largely gave way to 100-year-old wooden shacks. The scenery reminded me of my grandmother's village, where I'd been a couple times as a kid. The houses clung to each other as if preparing to resist a tsunami encroaching from the ocean. Judging by the book of them, they managed once before. With mixed results, I never managed to find a single sign of the street name or building number. I tried asking people on the streets, excuse me, but that was a lost cause. Almost every second house was either a restaurant or a shop. I could very well be looking for this Akira until late at night. I fruitlessly barged into one restaurant after another. Ramen, sushi, ramen, some kind of fish. Well, figures, after all I was on a waterfront. The strong smell of fresh and not so fresh fish was starting to make me feel nauseous. I bought a can of beer and sat down on a bench to get some air and rest. Far to the east, at the horizon where the ocean met the sky, the first stars had already started to appear, while the mountains to the west were ablaze with the rays of the sunset. The sight was spellbinding. Maybe I didn't find Akira, but I certainly hadn't come here for nothing. Beer was running out, and my soul begged me to get another can. Halt! I seem to have been having myself too much alcohol lately. Sent by a precise throw, the can departed for the nearest bin. Small Japanese women with giant bags in their hands on their shoulders were running back and forth around me. Small Japanese men were boisterously pushing big fish-filled carts in front of them. Merry yells, ship horns, and the noise of loading cranes were coming from the port. Languidly sprawled across the bench, I watched this human anthill. Watched hundreds of people drawn by their everyday problems walk past as they paid no attention to me. It was so good to not have to run anywhere, to not have to live my life constantly suffocated by the stench of fish. No, I didn't feel superior or better than these simple workers. More like I was different, granted comprehension of the wisdom of existence. For a second, a familiar face flashed in the crowd. Or was that just my imagination? I needed some time to get back to reality from the world of dreams. No, that was definitely Kagome. Oh, you know we made the right move. Let's go. Yeah. I jumped up and headed after her. Moving forward in the thick flow of people wasn't easy. I was shoved, had my feet stepped on, was hissed at. Sometimes Kagome would appear several meters in front of me and then disappear behind people's backs. Finally, I jumped out into a relatively free part of the waterfront, but the girl had already vanished into thin air. But I was absolutely certain it wasn't just my imagination. It was Kagome I had been chasing. And then she's gonna pop up out of nowhere like, were you chasing me? The night fully closed in. I was aimlessly wandering the waterfront, all hope of finding Kagome gone. The streets grew empty. A cool, salty wind blew from the ocean. The temperature fell abruptly. It was time to get going back. I was about to turn toward the station, but out of the corner of my eye I caught sight of Kagome, big bags in her hands, peering in the brightly lit entrance to a shop. Hey! I shouted. But she didn't hear me. It was too far, and the noise of the river didn't help. Hey! I rushed towards her, but a couple seconds later Kagome had entered a building. A restaurant. Gifts of the Sea. What an original name. The owner's name was written on a sign nearby. Akira Moriyuki. Well, damn me. Damn me. Don't think that's typically the phrase that's used, but alright. Was this really the place? I jerked the door's handle, but it didn't give. It seemed the restaurant was closed today. And what was I to do now? Knock? But who would I find in there? My Akira? What if it was just a coincidence? And what was Kagome doing here? There were more questions than answers, and the answers lay on the other side of the door. I knocked. Several minutes passed, but nobody responded. The insides of the restaurant itself were dark, but a light blinked once on the second floor, which would have the living area. Jesus. Which meant I'd been heard, unless, of course, the inhabitants were all deaf. I knocked again. Hey! A rough male voice came from a couple meters from me. I turned my head and saw a policeman quickly walking towards me. What are you doing here? What was I doing exactly? Standing, knocking on the door. It wasn't late enough for a lone school student to evoke suspicion from an upholder of the law, which meant someone had called the police. Someone like this Akira Moriyuki or Kagome. My plan certainly couldn't make room for a trip to the police station, and I broke into a run in the direction of the station. I was in no danger of being shot at, and the full-bodied man of about 50 had no chance of catching up to me when I was running. After reaching the station, I stopped to catch my breath. Well, damn. What the hell was that? I could guess that Akira, the owner of that restaurant, was somehow connected to Akira Shinji. What did Kagome have to do with it? But I was so tired I only wanted to get home as fast as possible. After taking the train, I immediately fell asleep, and only by some miracle didn't miss my stop. There was a note under my door. I bent down with some difficulty, grasped it, and read, "Nikko-kun, you've disappeared again. Do you not want to talk to me? I'm worried, you know. What's going on with you lately? Call me." I let out a heavy sigh, opened the door with my key, stumbled into the hallway, and sprawled out on the floor. "I'm done. Enough adventures for today," I said into the nothingness, and crawled to the living room without even taking my shoes off. The same images surfaced over and over in my head. Kagome's frowning face at school, her silhouette vanishing into the crowd at the waterfront, her distant figure disappearing behind the door of the Gifts of the Sea. Couldn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. The task was beyond me. Like in some trashy mystery novel, my life was ensnared by invisible threads, weaving themselves together into a deadly web. A strange note and frightening phone calls. My quiet classmate being connected to my father's work. What next? Was it about to turn out that Himitsu and Catherine were secret agents working for Japan and the USA respectively? Don't you dare. Don't you fucking dare. The fridge was empty. There wasn't even a bowl of instant ramen in the cupboard. Oof. I fiddled with Himitsu's note in my hand and read it again. Maybe it would be better to call her. After all, she was worried. And it wasn't even because I was hungry. I'm sorry, Himitsu. I'm locked in. I already know who I'm going for. Himitsu's gonna be the second round I follow up with for sure, but I'm locked into Kagome. I gotta. I'm sorry, Himitsu. But not today. I gave it one last bit of effort, crawled to my bed, and zonked out. Oh god, it's 9/11. The morning came suddenly. Oh. I stood up, stretched myself, and went to the bathroom, only to run into Himitsu in the hallway.
Nikko-kun. Good morning. I came to make you breakfast.
Good morning.
Nikko-kun.
What? Himitsu blushed and lowered her eyes. Ah, right. Yeah, I had my underpants on. What of it? She was in my house, alright? Listen, you can't come into my house and be upset at what I'm sleeping in. Should I have been sleeping in a tuxedo?
Today's Friday,
Himitsu joyfully said, finishing breakfast. Hooray, finally. I jokingly mimicked her.
Hey.
In reality, all of my thoughts were occupied by yesterday's incident with Kagome. I definitely had to talk to her today. I didn't even notice when we reached the school.
Ah, Saya-chan.
Himitsu exclaimed, was about to approach her friend, but immediately stopped and gave me a guilty look. Go already. See you later. She smiled and ran off. I had things to care about, too. Thoughtful, I was walking through the school's yard. Suddenly, joyful shouts coming from the pool reached my ears. Someone was clearly happier with life than me. Who was it, I wondered? I slowly approached the fence and hid behind the bushes. That's creepy. Splashing around the pool was the parallel class. There was nothing interesting to it, and I was about to leave for the school building, but my eyes stopped on Ellie. Of course they did. She looked gracious, perhaps even aristocratic. Both in a school uniform and informal gown, and in her swimsuit. Reflecting off the water, flecks of sunlight played on her smooth skin. Her wet hair fluttered in the wind, and her smile was so blinding, Ellie couldn't help but stand out from the rest of the girls. I wondered if beauty always came complete with wealth and success. In any case, her life was almost certainly simpler than mine. It wasn't even about the events of the past several days. Ellie simply didn't have to worry about the future. And what about me? Was I going to finish school and go to work for my food? In another life, our positions could be switched. Although it could be that in this life too, there was her complete opposite, Kagome. Well, Ellie might have had the better looks, but I caught myself thinking that I was comparing apples to oranges. Or rather, a girl wrapped in a gigantic puffer jacket wearing felt boots with a thick wool kerchief on her head, to a girl dressed in an evening gown with professional makeup on her face. Kagome. I didn't have time to admire lustrous scenery. I didn't really have time to admire lustrous scenery? They mean scenery? Scenery with beautiful girls. His head just poking up. I was about to leave when Ellie suddenly looked right at me and froze for a second.
Eat.
She suddenly cried out and waved her hands at me. That was the last thing I needed. All of her classmates turned their heads in my direction. I was going to also be known as the school's pervert. Japan was strict about this stuff. What next? I've been a layabout, a hooligan, a slacker, but never a pervert. Anyway, this wasn't the best time to be ruminating. I crouched and broke into a run away from the pool. Stopping only at the school's entrance, I looked back only to see no pursuit. I was sure they couldn't have seen my face among the bushes, which meant it was too early to crown myself with the title of pervert. It would take some work yet to deserve it. I had already finished changing my shoes and was about to go to class when a shout resounded from behind my back. Hey, you! In front of me stood Ellie, her breath heavy, and still clad in the swimsuit. When I started to think you were normal, to pick at girls? Well, to be fair, there were guys there too. How do you know I don't like dick, huh? I decided to play dumb. No idea what you're talking about. Hi, by the way. Stop pretending. I just saw you at the pool. At the pool? What would I be doing there? I don't even know how to swim. Well, I do, actually, but not that well. Stop clowning around. She interrupted me and stepped closer. If for some reason you think you'll come out clean, doubt I'll come out any cleaner than you. I looked down at her swimsuit. What? It took Ellie a few seconds to understand what was going on, then it finally dawned on her. Yeah, pervert! She covered herself with her hands and hid behind a locker. The nearby students had already been casting puzzled glances at her, but after this started to circle around us, The nearby students had already began casting puzzled glances at her, but after this started to circle around us at a respect. So swimming in a swimsuit is fine, being in front of all your male classmates is fine, but here, with me, it's not. Looked like Ellie just wasn't listening to me. She kept glaring daggers left and right, like a cornered lion. Yeah, you're not exactly in the right uniform for school, right? It's all your fault. Looked like she'd finally started to understand what I was saying, even looking out at me from behind the locker. You damn fire. I wasn't beeping on you, I just passed by. It's my fault our pool's there. It really was a very weird place for a pool, actually. Why were you watching that? Ellie said, calming down a little. Just daydreaming. Ooh, that's not the line you follow up with. Why were you watching women in swimsuits, huh? It was daydreaming. It was a bad excuse. The bottom line was that I was still peeping. Okay, fine, I'm a pervert. Happy now? Nikolai Lasborn of House Anakin, the father of lust, the king of hooligans, do-nothings, and future hobos. A late smile appeared on Ellie's face. You're a strange one. Can't even be angry with you properly. It's because of my large dick, isn't it? Is this a compliment? From outside came a gust of cool wind. She shivered. Watch it. I'll forgive you. For the first and only time. Ellie ran back to the pool, her head cast down. I wondered how much this incident damaged her reputation as queen of the school. Or was she absolutely inviolable? Would it take something worse for everyone to see that the queen was, in fact, naked?